Hey guys, RC Buster back with another video today. Today we're doing a second part on this SCX10 build for our competition runs. So I'm going to be doing a build guide on everything we're doing in the second part of this. We're making a lot of changes, replacing a lot of parts. But first we're going to have to start by getting this thing tore down. So I'm going to throw a time lapse in here of me tearing it apart, and then we'll get into what all we're going to be replacing and everything we're going to be doing to this truck in this video. So we had some more parts come in for the SCX10 build. We got all the stuff for our 3-piece axles in. So I've already test fitted some of the stuff and I cannot get these back off. I would take them off and show you how to put them on, but all they do is press on into these two holes. They have two holes in the back side there, and you just gotta press them real hard, but they fit real tight and snug. I can't get them back out. We have a Trill diff cover to go on. We have both Trill C-hubs for the front and Trill brass shock and link mount. For the rear, we also have, let me find them here real quick, figure out what I got for the rear. Right here. These are some KYX rear lockouts for the rear axles. We're not going to be assembling, I'm not going to show you how to do the rear axles because these will go on the same way, everything else will be the same. But we're going to start with having to get all the internals out of this. I've already taken one side off just for ease of video, but we're going to get this knuckle pulled off. I'm going to show you how to get the knuckles off. So first, you're going to want to go ahead and take your links out. Remember where the links go. It is pretty important. We're going to go ahead and back this screw out. Go ahead and just thread it all the way out. Right by hand. And pull the link off. Then you're just going to take the top two bolts off. We're also going to be changing these knuckles out to some heavyweight. I think they are also KYX. So we'll have to swap the bearings over. I'll show you how to get them out. I've already swapped them over from the stock ones. The stock ones, they fit a little bit tighter. But we have all the hardware and new parts for the KYX ones. We're going to get these knuckles off and get the internals out. And then once we go back together with the new axles, I'll show you how to get them back on, how the hardware for them go. But they are insanely heavy. They're a whole lot heavier than these brass ones I already have on here. We got the knuckle off. Now what we're left with is the axle and the drag link. So I'm going to push your little hub out, set it to the side, and now you got to get the bearings out. So I have a tool here. It fits good through into the first bearing and it just pops right out. On these, they're not real tight fit. And then I can just kind of get in there and pry it a little bit of an angle on the inside race of this bearing and it'll come out. We'll set them over to the side. Now we have to get this link off. Put the socket, little Allen back in. Oh, yeah, you gotta pull these out as well. They slide in and lock into the diff. Just pull right out. Get that out on me. Go ahead and get this last link unscrewed. There we go. Set that link there. Now we're going to have to get these bearings out of the end. I just stick my hex bit in and they come right out. See how they feel, if I'm going to get new ones coming or not. They don't feel too bad, so that'll be alright for this next axle. Go ahead and pop them out. Easy enough. Now we need to get the diff cover off of it. And start working on getting the internals of this diff out and swapping them over. It's pretty easy to do as long as you got some tools. Try to get these screws out a little quicker. I'm gonna go ahead and get these screws out and then we'll cut back once I have this cover off. Alright, so I got all the screws out of this stock axle. We're gonna pop the cover off, set it to the side. And I'm gonna set this up the same way as this diff would go. I'm gonna pull the parts out and just set them the exact same way. Pop our pinion out. stuck. Use this screwdriver to push it through. Looks pretty good. And now we gotta pop this bearing out. So now this axle is completely disassembled. I still have a few screws in it, just so I remember where the screws go, but I'll swap them over once I go to put the axle back on the truck. So let's go ahead and get rid of this, get it moved out of the way, and let's start building up this new axle. So I'm gonna start with by going ahead and putting this bearing in for the pinion, and we'll go ahead and drop the pinion in. A little bit of a tight fit in there. But you want to go ahead and drop that pinion back in through the bearing. Make sure it's set all the way in. Yeah, it spins pretty free. It does spin free. Just make sure it's all the way in. Now you want to take your differential gears and drop them back in the same way they come out. And they fit right in. And now before I put this cover on to keep all this held together, I'm going to get some waterproof grease. I'm going to put some waterproof grease in here and get it greased up real good. I want plenty of grease in there because this truck's going to be together for a while. And for longevity of all these parts, I want to get a bunch of grease inside of them. So I use some Maxima waterproof grease is what I've been using in all these parts. It's just waterproof grease I had. Anything waterproof would do good, just since these trucks do get wet. Because we do run them in water and mud, just to make sure that the grease stays and doesn't get all watered out and wash itself out. I just want to make sure there's plenty of grease in there on them gears. And I'm going to go ahead and spin this around and kind of even some of the grease out before I put this cover on. Go ahead and give it a couple spins around. Just focused in on it. Get it spun around. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more grease in. After it's spread out, I can use a little bit more. So there we go. We'll find a towel to clean this up with. Clean the excess grease off before I put the cover on. Alright. So I'm going to wipe this excess grease off that's hanging out. And now we're going to grab our trail diff cover, and we're going to go ahead and slide that in. It is a pretty tight fit, but high quality machine parts fit real good, so there it is. This kit comes with the 4 screws for the diff, or for the diff cover. I'll go ahead and slide all 4 of them in and tighten them up, and then I'll cut back in, and we'll start assembling the rest of the axle. Alright, so I got all the diff cover bolts tightened up. They're a little long, so it takes me a little bit to get them all tightened up. Now we're going to go ahead and put our bearings back in for the end of the axles. There are these bearings that we took out. I'm going to slide them back in. Make sure they're pressed in all the way. We're going to do that on both ends. And before we put these knuckles on, we're going to go ahead and install our trail shock mounts. So they will just pop into the 2 holes in the back because they have the 2 little studs, and they thread in from the front side. With these hot racing diff weights I got, they came with screws for them, which are these, I believe. No, they're not. They aren't those. I think they're these. I grabbed the wrong ones anyway. I think they're these screws. Let's get these opened up. Go ahead and drop them in. Now let's run these through. Yeah, that's better. We're gonna go ahead and get these tightened up. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and put both of these on. And actually, now that I look at it, I have them on. No, they're correct. They're on the right way. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get both of these tightened up. And then once I get them both tightened up, we'll cut back in. And I'll show you how to get both knuckles on. So give me just a minute. We'll be right back. Okay, guys. So I got the weights all bolted in. I ended up getting the bolts backwards for the diff cover and the weights. They are a little bit of different size. And when you tighten this diff cover up, be careful not to over tighten it because it will bind the gear up. I had that issue already and I noticed it, so I loosened them screws up. Over tightening that put too much load on it. And I think we already discussed, but we put the bearings in here. So now we're gonna go ahead and mount up the Trail C hubs. What I did is I'm gonna look at these, the stock axle, and they're mounted pretty much straight up and down with the little line, little brace here. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna line them up the same. Notice the left side of this has the pin for the drawbar to keep the axle centered. So I'm gonna line it up about as straight as I can. Oh. And try to get it on there. Let's see if I can get it. There it is. Straight up and down. And now we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And you wanna make sure you have them the right way around. They are angled. And just like the stock ones, they are also angled up a little bit. Line them straight up and down, as close as you can get them. There we go. They both look about the same. So I'm gonna call that good. Now we're gonna go ahead and get the screws in them. So we need, let's see, what screws do I need? Are these gonna be long enough? I think those will work. Put the 2 screws in them and tighten them up. Tighten them up so they can't come off. Oh, they're not really long enough. So I got the wrong screws. Let me find the right screws and we'll get it together. Alright, so I got the 2 bolts in the C-hubs now. The bolt I tried to use was just too small of a diameter. I had to find the right ones. I've had these out for a couple days, so I had to find the right bolts. So now we're going to go ahead and slide our axle shafts back in. And slide them in, and then you just need to twist them until they fall into place and fall all the way in like that. Same thing on the other side. And so now we need to install our knuckle. Now these knuckles are from KYX. They are real heavy. The bearings that came out of the old knuckle we had, just put them back in. They're pretty tight fitting on these. You're gonna have to press them in a little bit, front and rear side. Both of them get a bearing. So make sure they go in straight and that they're in all the way. As far as this one's not in all the way, I'm gonna have to get it tapped in and then we'll be back and I'll show you how to install it on the axle. Alright, so I got the bearings drove in. I had to hit this one in a little bit. But now you want to grab your axle in, your axle shaft in, and go ahead and run it through. And make sure that it spins okay and you didn't damage any of the bearings. This is where our steering links are going to hook up. And you're going to want to line the little line up here with that on the dog bone. Go ahead and line them up together. See if I can get it on there. There we go. Oh, almost. There it is. Now on these, there's a bearing that goes on the top and bottom of these. So you want to go ahead and slide this little bearing in. You're going to want to get it in as flat and straight as possible. As you can see, I got it in there. And then you have 2 screws and out of the kit. They're a little bit shorter that'll go into these. You want to thread them in. You want them snug. You don't want to get them overly tight. Just to where it still turns freely. Same thing on the bottom. And I'm probably going to go back through and put a little bit of Loctite on these. There's probably some blue thread locker just to keep them from coming out. I've had these come out in the past and I don't want them to come out on me. But you can get them a little bit tighter having these bearings in there as opposed to some of the other ones that you can get. Some of them just have little shims in them, and if you over tighten them, it'll jam the whole thing up. These you can get a little bit tighter. So that's a little bit better. Still a little stiff for my liking. I need to loosen this up just a little bit. There we go, that's pretty good. Pretty much free. Little resistance to it, not a whole lot. Probably loosen it up just a little bit more. And then we'll probably good. That's better. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. This one I've already installed all the bearings into this from a previous test fit. We're going to go ahead and get it slid back in, and then we'll get the bolts in it. These add a whole lot of weight real down low. Good for the center of gravity on this truck. We're running some taller tires, we're running some 5.4 inches, so I'm trying to get that center of gravity as low as possible. Like I said, we're going to be running competitions in this truck, so I want it to hold up and perform just about as good as possible. Fix the camera here, get knocked over. There we go. But I want it to perform just about as good as I possibly can get it, so we're adding as much weight as possible. The rear axle is going to have all the same parts on it, just without the knuckles, and it'll have the rear lockouts instead. That one's real free. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more. Just make sure they don't come out. There we go. That's pretty good. So now we're going to have to hook all our links back up. And these are what our axles are looking like so far. Look like they're going to be pretty hefty. I'm going to get all the links and stuff hooked back up to this, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's finished with all the links on. And then I'm going to get the back one installed, and I'm going to put them back on the vehicle, and we'll show you what they look like once they're back on. It's been a couple of weeks since I last filmed on this truck. We made a lot of progress, and I'm going to go over kind of what all I have done off camera of the truck. So far, I had the transmission. It's a metal gear transmission, all metal housing aluminum, that come off of my ECX Ruckus. I ordered this to replace it, and I ended up swapping it back off and putting it on my SCX10. We have both front axles completely assembled, and the rear axle completely assembled with all the weights on it. We have replaced the links with high clearance aluminum links. These will help give me a little bit more ground clearance. The link that came with that kit for the steering was a little bit long. It kind of had me all towed out, and so I replaced it with my old link I had. We have put the Desert Lizard shocks on. I didn't bother filming it because there's a ton of videos on YouTube on how to build these already. But I have them in a droop setup, so they hold the center of gravity a little lower. We went ahead and swapped to metal drive shafts to replace the stock plastic ones. And we installed a Reeves 555 servo onto this thing. And right now I'm in the works of working on my own custom rock sliders. As you can see, I've been 3D printing my own. These are a test version. I'm gonna end up swapping them colors, and I got a few little things to change. But I made these to where they will clear the 5.4 inch tires. So if anybody wants the STL file or to be able to print these yourself, if you can leave an email or something in the comment, I can get them emailed over to you. But we're getting ready to start working on getting the body mounted on this thing, get the body painted up. I already have the body I'm going to use. It is a Vanquish body, but so far we've made a lot of progress on this truck, and it's really coming along. So we're going to get into painting this body and get it all mounted. So stay tuned for it. We finally finished painting up the body on this truck. Looks pretty good. I went for a Vanquish body on it and got rid of the honcho body just so I could get a little bit more clearance with the bigger tires so they don't rub. I ended up painting this dark green color and ended up running it with just a flatbed. Looks pretty good. So comp is coming up. It's actually tomorrow. This build's been going on for about 2 months worth of time. So it's been a lot of off and on filming. I ended up letting the body hinge. Makes it a lot easier for mounting. But I'm gonna go over everything that we did to the truck for this comp, for this season, and what all I've put on it. So these are the finalized versions that I was talking about 3D printing. There are the new sliders. What they do is they have the clearance to allow for the tires. I also 3D printed some smooth pieces to put on the bottom to make them smooth, unlike the stock axial ones. We swapped over to a metal geared all aluminum transmission. You can find it on Amazon. We have metal front and rear drive shafts. We went along and put on some high clearance links on the front and rear. Swapped to the Desert Lizard shocks. These are 90 millimeters. about the same length as stock ones, but I want to be able to get some droop to help with the lower weight. On the front, we put on a bunch of brass parts on the front axle. We swapped to a 3-piece AR-44s. So we have the, I believe they were KYX steering knuckles. They're the heavyweights. If you look in there, we have the Trail C hubs, some hot racing 70-gram brass weights, Trail diff cover, and same all the way across. We still have the same spacers we had before, and the weighted wheel rings. We have the same 1.9 rims, beadlocks, but we swapped to a 5.4 inch set of super swampers to get a little more diff clearance. And we put a Reeves 555 steering servo on it. So overall, we put a lot of parts in this build. Almost everything changed from the last one. But this is the second part of our build for comp. Like I said, it took about 2 months for us to build. Tomorrow is comp day. We're running Ironman comp. It'll be 2 different courses throughout the day. But we're gonna run this truck and get some footage on it. And we're gonna have a couple of different videos from the comp. So stay tuned for it and check out how this truck does. But this is our build on it, and this is what we're gonna run for the season. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.